Hey, I'm Elsa. I just went on my first ever backpacking trip. With my friends Allie and her mom Stacy, we hiked 42 miles on the Smoky Mountains section of the Appalachian Trail. This is a video on the gear I packed as a noob to backpacking, but as an experienced outdoors woman. When I'm not backpacking on backpacking trips, I live full-time in an off-grid 13-foot Scamp trailer, so a lot of this gear I have and use in my everyday life. My pack for this hike was a Kestral 48. It's Baron's pack he got while working at a gear shop 6 or 7 years ago. It's a men's pack and doesn't have changeable straps, so it was just a little loose in my hips, causing me to have a bit of chafing on my collarbones from the extra weight in my shoulders. But for the most part, it was really comfortable and the perfect size for all my gear. Let's first talk about the clothing I brought. Merino t-shirt. I wore this shirt every day of the hike. Merino is the best for outdoor adventuring because the wool fibers are antimicrobial and don't absorb bacteria that make your clothes stink. Merino long sleeve. This layer acted as my natural sunscreen, protected me from bugs, which we never ran into, and was a nice layer in the cooler parts of the day. I can't stop! These pants. These are Fjall Nikka pants. I could rave about them forever, but I will give you my top 2 perks. The first is real pockets. On women's pants, this is nearly impossible to find. There's a couple real zip-up pockets on both legs where I kept toilet paper, a wide button pocket that I kept some snacks in, and a smaller cargo pocket that held my phone. The second thing are the materials. The first fabric is Fjallraven's own G1000, which is a recycled polyester and organic cotton blend material that you wax. The more wax you add, the more water and wind resistant. It's located in all the areas that get the most wear, like the booty, the knees, and the heels. The rest of the material is a lightweight, stretchy fabric. Very comfortable and moves with my body easily when going upstairs or doing yoga stretches. If you need me to tell you more about why I love these pants, just ask in the comments. They are indeed quite expensive, but Fjallraven is a supremely ecological brand with great ethics, and this piece will last me many, many years. A rain jacket. I definitely needed this rain jacket in the Smoky Mountains. I got this jacket on super duper sale at REI and chose this one over other brands because of how compact it rolls up to be. Hiking shoes. I hiked all 42 miles of this hike in my trusty Chacos sandals. Chacos are about the only shoe that I wear, unless it's too cold, but even then I just put socks on. I know how big boots and sturdy hiking shoes are widely recommended for hiking, but my Chacos are like sandal boots. Super sturdy, they dry fast when wet, and my feet are very used to wearing them for lengthy periods of time and on tough terrain. I listened to my instincts here and knew that I could do a 4-day hike in shoes I know I love, instead of buying a new pair. The day I got blisters was the day I hiked 11 miles in socks, causing the straps to rub in places they don't normally sit. Sleepy merino. I wore this merino long sleeve at night, a bit thicker fabric than my merino sun shirt. Yoga pants. I threw on these Lululemon yoga pants joggers as soon as we got off the trail each night. Super comfy, loose-fitting fabric. Lightweight but still warm enough for sleeping. For warmth, I brought my favorite Patagonia Nano Puff. I love this thing as a lightweight, temperature-regulating layer. I wore this at night and a few mornings on the trail. Underwear and bras. I brought 2 pairs of merino wool thongs and flipped each pair inside out to get double use out of them. I also had this merino wool sports bra that I stopped wearing after day 1 as it was intensifying the chafe on my collarbones for my pack straps. Socks. I had 2 pairs of merino wool socks. I very heavily considered only bringing 1 pair. Because I was hiking in sandals, I didn't need a pair of socks on my feet at all times, but I would wear a pair with my Chacos if it was cold. And if they got wet, I wanted to have a dry pair for sleeping. I brought 2 pairs of gloves. Overkill for most, but I've got Raynaud's that causes my fingers and toes to lose circulation and go numb really easily. I wore the fingerless gloves more often than not, actually, and wore the thicker gloves through the night. I had 1 ball cap for sun protection and rain cover, but in the Smokies you're under pretty consistent tree coverage, so I didn't wear it often. A beanie. I could have gotten away without this, but I was happy to have it on the cold, wet evenings after hiking. Merino buff. This guy could have replaced my beanie, but I was happy to have this to keep my neck warm with the beanie on my head. This particular brand has a little hole, which is really great for snowboarding or other super cold sports. Sunglasses. Maybe I would need these on another trail, but again, we were under a lot of tree coverage and I didn't use these at all. Toiletries. I kept all my face gear in my glasses case. Contacts, glasses, toothbrush, and retainers, which I will not show to the internet. Comb. I did bring a comb. The fork of my spork was pretty ineffective at combing my hair, so I brought a real one. I brought this compact towel, but only used it once to dry myself after rinsing off at the end of day 1, the hottest day of them all. I thought I might use this as a rag to clean my pots, but didn't feel it was necessary and instead just scraped out all the leftover food scraps really well, rinsed it, and then drank that water. Soap. I brought a little bit of Dr. Bronner's soap diluted in water in this little squishy Matador toiletry bag. Next is my kitchen. A Stanley pot. I was thinking I'd pick up one of those nestable titanium cook pots, but we've had this old Stanley pot forever and decided to see if I actually liked backpacking before buying a dedicated backpacking pot. You can get these Stanleys everywhere. It was actually the first bit of camping gear Baron and I ever purchased together many years ago. I brought this metal pint cup too. I've seen some people say that you only need one food pot bowl cup, but I enjoyed being able to drink my coffee while I boiled water in my Stanley pot for breakfast. To cook, I brought my little MSR Pocket Rocket stove. It's so compact and works really well unless it's a windy day, which I thankfully didn't experience. I used a mini can of MSR fuel with it that I don't have to show you because I couldn't fly back to the camp with it and I left it with my friends. A spork. This was my eating utensil, very handy. Sawyer water filter. I bought this filter days before going on the hike. It's super small and lightweight and has pretty great reviews, except for the bag that it comes with. The bag that came with it popped after day 1, even with the recommended light pressure squeezing. Sawyer, if this is such a common problem, why not supply your customers with a quality water collection bag that wouldn't go into the trash only after a few uses, or not supply one at all? I taped it shut and used it gently, but thankfully Allie and Stacy let me borrow their gravity water filter. A water bladder. I am one of those who likes to drink from a camelback. I can't imagine myself stopping to pull water bottles out of my pack to drink while hiking, but I have never tried that. In my limited experience, I am currently a huge fan of the camelback. First aid kit. This cute little thing was a gift. I think you can get them at REI. I also brought some of this Leuco tape for blisters. Overkill, but enough to wrap my ankles in case my Chacos didn't provide me enough support. Now for my tech gear. The camera I used on this trip was this mirrorless Canon M50. I brought 4 total batteries and only went through 2. I also brought this GoPro in case it happened to rain. This little mount on it is awesome for sticking on baseball hats for a cool first-person perspective view. Matador sleeping bag. One of the cooler camera bags I've ever owned is this Matador camera sleeping bag. We call it a sleeping bag because how can you call it anything else? This thing has a roll top that rolls down to protect your camera with holes on either side of it if you've got a strap. Best feature for me on this hike was this built-in dry bag. If you roll it up into the roll top, it becomes a dry bag for your camera. Peak Designs clip. I brought my Peak Designs clip, which is so handy for hiking. You attach the big piece to your pack strap and the plate to your camera. I liked this a lot because my camera was accessible at all times, though when it rained I did keep it inside my sleeping bag inside my pack. Solar panel. I brought this 5-watt BioLite solar panel thinking we'd have more sun, but unfortunately it didn't get much use. But as somebody using a lot of tech and camera gear, it is a really handy thing to have. You can move the leg to position the panel however you need on your pack to collect the best sun. Charge 20. I also had this Charge 20 battery from BioLite. It's nice to be able to have a charged phone for maps and to take photos and to charge my GoPro and headlamp. The 3 of us brought 2 of these on our trip and didn't drain either one. Headphones and cables. I was really happy to have headphones for the trail for the times I wanted a little boost of energy with music in my ear. In my little headphone case I also housed my charging cables, an iPhone cable and a micro USB for everything else. BioLite Sunlight. One of my favorite and one of BioLite's most underrated products. I asked BioLite to send a couple of these for Allie and Stacy, and we used them more often than we used our headlamps. Color changing, dimmable, red light, and a leg to stand and hang, all great features, but the coolest, most practical feature is its self-charging ability with a solar panel on the back. Up to 50 hours runtime is forever on a backpacking trip, and when it needs a boost of charge, just clip it to your pack as you hike. Headlamp. Brought my BioLite headlamp, of course. It's a huge deal for me to have a rechargeable headlamp so I don't have to worry about carrying batteries. Now for my bed. My sleeping bag it's not designed for this use. It's a quilt, but not like a backpacking quilt which has a footbox. This is just a blanket, which kind of sucked on the colder nights as my feet would slip out, but mostly sucked because I kept thinking mice would come snuggle up with me, and thoughts like that didn't really help me sleep. I brought this one because I don't own my own sleeping bag and didn't want to buy one just for this trip, so I used what I had, which is a really nice down quilt, just not really designed for this use per se. I did choose to buy a $15 inflatable pillow for this trip, and I am glad that I did. I could have slept on a bag of clothes, but my theory was that if I got bad sleep due to my pillow, my hike would be harder, so $15 in extra comfort felt worth it to me. This is my sleeping pad. I got it from REI a couple years ago before I knew anything about what I might want in a sleeping pad. Feels a lot like a pool floaty, which is fine. It worked well for me. As I hiked, I carried all my sleeping gear in this Matador dry bag, and at night put all my food items inside and used it as my bear bag to hang up on the bear bag rigs. It's a really nice sized bag with thin material, making it extremely compact when not in use. I really wanted to bring my regular journal with me, but didn't want to lug it around on my back for 4 days, so I brought this tiny little field notes journal instead. I have so much epic stuff in here that my other video, the video about the hike itself, is based around. This is the first page, but you'll have to check out the other video to see the rest. A key to minimal living, be it in a scamp or a house or a backpack, is for all your belongings to have a home. Every time you use an item, put it back in its home and you'll always be able to find everything. First, I put my water bladder in before anything else. Every evening after hiking, we'd filter and fill our water bladders so we could put them back into our empty packs in the morning. My pack has this extremely handy lower zipper and separator on the inside, allowing me to access stuff from the bottom of the pack instead of having to go through the top. In here, I stored my sleeping clothes, my warm jacket, extra socks, and warm gloves all inside this packing cube. These cubes are really nice for any type of travel, allowing you to compact the contents into a smaller size. And below that, I stored my bed. As I said earlier, I fit my quilt, sleeping pad, and pillow in this dry bag, and I did this just in case for any reason my pack happened to get wet, that my sleeping gear wouldn't. Moving on to the zipper side pockets. On this side, I stored my quick access cold weather gear. I kept my day socks, lightweight gloves, and buff all inside of my beanie. Having it here on the side of my pack allowed me to grab stuff quickly when I needed it. I also kept my rain jacket here. Clothing with clothing. In the other zipper, I kept my toiletries. My comb and towel, and soap and face equipment all together. This mesh pocket on the front of my pack came in handy on the days I was shedding and adding layers. Just a quick pocket to hold clothes in when I wasn't wearing them. On the inside of my pack, I kept my solar panel right along the back like I would keep my laptop. And then I stored my kitchen. In my Stanley, I stored my gas canister and pocket rocket. Then rolled up my water filter and stored that inside my cup with my spork. This kitchen system could definitely be refined, but it worked really well for me using gear I already had. I stored my kitchen in this position to keep it all nice and tight in my bag and allow plenty of room for food above it. This is what my food looked like at its fullest capacity, and it all fit perfectly. In the very top pocket of my pack, I kept all the things that go on my head. My headlamp, headphones, and sunglasses. I also kept a lighter in here because that's where I decided to keep it. In the second head pocket, I kept my non-essentials, stuff that I wouldn't access unless I needed them. This was my camera sleeping bag and my first aid kit. Then underneath, I kept my toilet paper. Here are some remnants, and my bag of tech gear. When I wasn't charging it, I kept my sunlight and all my batteries in this little bag. It would make sense for me to keep my charging cables in here too, but even when I'm not hiking, I keep my cables in my headphone case, so that worked better for me. The sides of this pack have little cup holder spots that I use to keep my journal and pen. When it rained, I stuck them inside my top pocket and covered my pack with my rain cover. Nothing ever got wet inside my pack, but better safe than sorry. Lastly, I've got these two little hip pockets. On the left side, I kept my GoPro, and on the right side, I kept snacks. That's it for what I packed on my first ever backpacking trip. If you liked and found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and leave a comment letting me know if there is any additional gear I should bring with me on future backpacking trips. See you in the next one.